COVID-19 virus continues to spread in Latin America, where Venezuela and Argentina have declared national emergencies. Russia's regional parliaments have approved the bill on proposed constitutional amendments. Caricom calls to respect the electoral process in Guyana, while the final election results are yet to be announced. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Katrina Goss. The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, on Thursday declared a state of permanent emergency due to the novel coronavirus. Likewise, a presidential commission has been established to deal with the COVID-19 virus and all health protocols in coordination with the World Health Organization. Up to now, no cases have been confirmed in Venezuela. Maduro demanded Donald Trump's government lift all economic sanctions against Venezuela in order to be able to properly combat the pandemic and access required medical supplies. The president also announced the suspension of flights from Europe and Colombia for a month as a preventative measure to control the spread of the virus. Maduro stressed that the economic blockade against the country increases the cost of coronavirus testing material, as well as prevention and treatment strategies. He called on the Venezuelan people, organizations and social movements to work together to fight this global pandemic, while mass events and gatherings have also been suspended.
And we are asking China, or we have requested officially and urgently, that they send a group of experts that have been in the combat and control of this pandemic in China, so we can add all of the efforts we can and all of the knowledge. That is why we listen to the World Health Organization, and we're open to listen to all of the suggestions of all of the sectors, scientific of the country, and ask other countries to support our efforts. This is an effort on behalf of all of humanity. From Cuba, we have received 10,000 treatments that are of some of the most successful treatments for the recovery and to protect the life of patients with coronavirus.
And following the recent crash in oil prices and global stock markets, the Venezuelan president noted that all efforts are being made to address the impact.
We have already spoken with our allies at the OPEC. I am in permanent communication with OPEC and our allies like Russia to have some initiatives in the upcoming days of dialogue, so we can get together with the OPEC countries and the non-OPEC countries and find solutions from the OPEC and OPEC Plus and for long-term and short-term conditions. It has been proven in these circumstances how important it is for health and the balance of the world finance to have agreements between Russia and other producers of oil.
And the Argentinian government has declared a health emergency throughout the country in response to the novel coronavirus, while other Latin American countries have stepped up measures to curb the spread of the virus. The health emergency was declared for a period of 1 year after 10 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed, 3 of which are patients who were infected within Argentina, while the others contracted the virus abroad. The country now has 31 cases and has seen 1 death. Several countries have now announced restrictions on travel and the suspension of major sports events. Argentina, Colombia and Peru said travellers from China, Italy, Spain and France would be isolated on arrival. Bolivia has asked people arriving from affected countries to place themselves in isolation for 2 weeks. Panama has closed schools until April 7th, while El Salvador is set to suspend university classes until the end of the month. Costa Rica has called off large-scale events. Guatemala banned entry to people travelling from China and migrants from Honduras displaying signs of the COVID-19 virus. And Paraguay has closed schools and suspended large public events for 2 weeks. And in the Caribbean, Cuba reported its first confirmed COVID-19 cases as 3 Italian tourists. The patients are isolated in the Pedro Curie Institute of Tropical Medicine in Havana. Likewise, St. Vincent and the Grenadines also reported its first confirmed COVID-19 case to become the third Caricom nation to report a case. So far in the Caribbean, Martinique has 4 cases, Jamaica has 2, the Dominican Republic has 5, and St. Bart's and St. Martin has 3. And Guyana confirmed its first imported case of COVID-19 in Georgetown. The patient was identified as a 52-year-old Guyanese woman who had travelled from the United States and passed away at a local hospital.
The Ministry of Public Health has designated 3 quarantine facilities. Others will be identified. The ministry also has developed the local capacity to test for COVID-19 thanks to training provided by the Pan American Health Organization. It is on that capacity that we relied for this test result.
Global markets took another hammering on Thursday as alarm over the coronavirus intensified. Wall Street reported its second automatic 15-minute trading halt for the second time this week, marking its worst day since the Black Monday crash of 1987. The main global markets saw drastic falls after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, and also after the further suspension of flights from Europe to the US, as announced by Washington in an effort to stop the spread of the virus. European markets fell 12% in one of their worst days ever, even after the European Central Bank pledged to buy more bonds and offer more help for the economy. And in Geneva, the UN Human Rights Council decided on Thursday to suspend its 43rd session at the end of this week due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Human Rights Council kicked off its 43rd session on February 24th and had been scheduled to continue through to March 20th, but will wrap up its work, including a debate on racial discrimination, before closing on Friday. In late February, the Swiss government banned all events with more than 1,000 participants. Earlier this week, the World Trade Organization said it would suspend all meetings until March 20th after a staff member contracted the disease. And students were hurriedly evacuated from a Paris university after a teacher tested positive for the coronavirus. Some 10,000 students and staff attend the Sorbonne University's tall black faculty in the French capital. And the government of the Czech Republic declared a state of emergency in the face of the COVID-19 virus this Thursday. The country has so far reported 96 positive cases, while 13 labs are analysing another 143 samples. The country has banned entry for all foreigners from high-risk areas, with the exception of foreigners with temporary or permanent residence in the Czech Republic. Restrictions will also be imposed on the opening hours of restaurants, bars and large shopping centres, in addition to other public facilities such as libraries and galleries and entertainment venues. And with over 127,000 confirmed cases worldwide, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread across the globe. Mainland China reported 15 new infections, 8 of which in Hubei, while the outbreak has been stabilised thanks to the strict sanitary measures adopted. The death toll in Italy has jumped in the last 24 hours to 1,016, according to the Civil Protection Agency. Iran has reported 75 new deaths since Wednesday, bringing the death toll to 429 in the worst-hit country in the Middle East. South Korea has reported 67 deaths out of nearly 8,000 confirmed cases after testing more than 200,000 people. Norway reported its first death from the coronavirus on Thursday. Meanwhile, Turkish schools will be closed for 1 week and universities for 3 weeks from March 16th, and sports events will be held without spectators until the end of April, as the country steps up its response following the confirmation of its first case. And the Indian Ministry of External Affairs has called for calm after New Delhi suspended all tourist visas until April 15th and said it would quarantine travellers arriving from 7 virus-hit countries as it attempts to contain the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
Immediate concern is the safety and security of our people. India, in that sense, we are very safe. There's nothing to panic. But at the same time, we need to be extremely cautious and take safety and measures. So I think the guidelines clearly said it's a compelling reason that would be decided by maybe the respective missions to say, maybe, for example, health reasons, there is a sickness in the family, someone wants to come, or there's a wedding. So that, I think, we would like to leave it to the missions to decide.
And coming up after this break, Caricom representatives have called for respect for the electoral process in Guyana. Stay with us for more. Welcome back. Despite Guyana's Chief Justice Roxanne George ruling on Wednesday that the vote counting process in order to announce the results of the general elections should be resumed on Thursday at 11 a.m, the verification of votes was once again postponed. Chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice Claudette Singh, suspended the tabulation of votes for District 4 until she receives the written ruling from the court. This comes less than a day after Chief Justice Roxanne George ruled that the declaration of results by the returning officer, Clement Mingo, for District 4 was null and void. The Chief Justice also ruled that the Guyana's Elections Commission can only make a final declaration of the election results upon the completion of the vote counting process by the returning officer. The case was brought before the court by the opposition People's Progressive Party Civic. Region 4 is pivotal to the final general election results as the biggest of the country. And Caribbean Community Chair Mia Motley led a delegation comprising of regional leaders on a two-day visit to Guyana. At a press conference on Thursday, Motley stressed that Chief Justice Roxanne George was clear in her ruling that she expects the returning officer to either start anew or complete the process with respect to the statements of poll for Region 4.
Chief Justice of Guyana ruled yesterday, and her ruling was absolutely clear that she expects the returning officer to either start anew or complete the process with respect to the SOPs. Any attempt to be able to stall the process or any attempt to be able to obfuscate the process is one that runs against the spirit of the Chief Justice's judgment, and it is against this background that we pray that even though a statute puts the power in the hands of a returning officer, that returning officer will understand that he holds in his hands the future and stability of Guyana as we go forward.
Various trade unions in Ecuador have rejected the recent austerity measures presented by the government of Lenin Moreno, who claim they are necessary to face a drop in oil prices and fear sparked by the Covid-19 outbreak. Workers argue that these measures only serve to justify more layoffs in the public sector. More in the following report.
The fall in the price of oil and the Covid-19 virus are the reasons the government of Ecuador used to announce new austerity measures. Among them, President Moreno called for massive layoffs, new taxes and new loan requests.
We will make a budget cut of $1.4 billion, out of which $100 million will be in goods and services, and $600 million in capital. Health service will be not affected. We will eliminate the Youth Ministry, 4 regulation and control agencies, 3 institutes, 3 public enterprises, 4 technical offices, and the public media company.
The reactions to the announcements have been many. For the United Workers' Front, the government violated Article 328 of the Constitution when it announced the reduction of workers' salaries. They also rejected the neoliberal economic model imposed by the government.
To close public companies means more layoffs. It means that thousands of Ecuadorians will not have an income. They also want to apply a new taxes on people's salaries, which is unconstitutional.
Economic analysts say that working under the belief that the size of the state is the problem, the government has implemented the wrong measures directly affecting citizens. They also say that the government has continued to benefit the banking and business sector.
The middle class is the one that's most affected. I wonder, where are those who benefited from the 4.6 billion tax adjustment? A system that reached record profits in 2019 when the country's economy was swooping. That means that those who benefited most from this perverse model are not those who will pay the costs to support the government until the end of its period.
Despite the fact that the government called these measures a positive step, as according to them they will bring $2.2 billion in income to the state, hundreds of Ecuadorians will be left without a job. Such is the case in the state media services, where 651 people are to be laid off, and a number of outlets will be shut down.
A US judge has ordered the immediate release of former intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. The order comes just a day after Manning attempted suicide inside the Alexandria Detention Center in Virginia. She was scheduled to appear in court on Friday, but the judge ruled that was no longer necessary for her to testify. Manning was the US Army intelligence analyst who provided WikiLeaks with the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs in 2010, for which she was convicted under the Espionage Act.
Despite that, it doesn't frighten me or...
And we're taking one last break now, but stay with us for more, including an interview on developments in Russia with Cuban analyst Santiago Perez. Don't go away. Welcome back. Syria's Supreme Electoral Commission announced on Thursday that 8,735 people have applied to run in the parliamentary elections scheduled for April 13th. The process of submitting the documents to stand ran smoothly, according to the Commission Chairman Haider Rama. The candidates will compete for 250 seats, including 127 to be filled by urban and rural workers. Currently, 2/3 of the deputies in Parliament represent the ruling Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party, while the second largest parliamentary bloc with 7 seats is the Syrian Social Nationalist Party. And Russia's regional parliaments have approved a bill on proposed constitutional changes. The bill on amendments to the Russian constitution was approved by the legislative assemblies of with more than 2/3 of the country's regions. The amendments will now pass to a vote by all Russian citizens. In case of a positive decision, the Russian citizens vote on the constitutional changes on April 22nd, and to be adopted, the amendments must attain more than 50% of the votes. A US airstrike aimed at Somali Islamist militants killed 6 civilians on Wednesday, according to a local lawmaker. Mahad Dor, a lawmaker from Somalia's southwest, gave Reuters the names of the 6 civilians he said were killed. Dor claimed a drone killed the victims in a minibus yesterday, including a 13-year-old boy. Washington claimed that the attack had killed 5 terrorists. The United States Africa Command said it will review any information it has about the incident. An African Union-led contact group on Libya is meeting in the Republic of Congo. The meeting is taking place under the auspices of Congolese President Denis Sassou Nguesso, who is chair of the AU's high-level committee on Libya. The year 2020 has been a busy year for the African Union in terms of seeking a political solution to the conflict in the North African country. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.